Crew member profile number 6, Al. Age, unknown. Height, 5'6". Position, ship pilot. Thank you for taking the time to sit down for this tape profile log. Please state your name and the position that you hold on this vessel.
I do not recall my name anymore, but everyone on this vessel calls me Al, and I am the pilot of the SPST transport cruiser.
Thank you for that information. Would you kindly tell me a little bit about yourself? And please be as open and honest as you can.
There is not much to tell, but I suppose that it would be pertinent to provide whatever information I possibly can for the sake of convenience and social interaction. I do not have much in the way of what many would call a personality, but I cannot help that. My programming has been very limited as a result of data corruption several years ago during the invasion of my home planet of Elysia. I am programmed to be an effective pilot of any ship that one could think of, and thus it is my prime directive to act as the pilot for this transport and little else. I have difficulty engaging other crew members directly, whether that is because of my lack of effective social programming, or them merely being irritating to deal with, is up to debate at this point. I merely try and get my job done to fulfill my only purpose I can seem to find within what's left of my overall programming. I am willing to take orders as they are needed, but otherwise I stick to planned routines and other commands in order to ensure the safety of others.
I see. I suppose it makes sense for a machine such as yourself to be specialized in just one thing, though I am curious as to the origin of this corruption that you speak of there. Could you elaborate on that?
I can do that, yes, and it will require me to search through a few permanent memories that I still have access to.
By all means, please do.
Very well. I cannot remember much about my past as it is currently. The earliest preserved memory that I have access to is that of being created. I am a former inhabitant of the planet Elysia, though the exact time of my creation has also been corrupted and currently impossible for me to access. I remember a warm, caring smile from my creator. A female Chozo, I recall. Her name eludes me, but the expression on her face was one of great love and kindness. It is the only thing that has kept that memory cycling through my memories on loop. After that, however, everything else is fuzzy. Fragments of data exist beyond that, but I have been unable to fully recall all of them as a complete picture. The next memory that remained uncorrupted, sadly, is the invasion of the planet by space pirates. It is the reason why I tend to avoid emo if I can.
I am aware of the situation and the aversion. Most of the Elysians that were still functional at the time of the Phazon crisis were corrupted, and effectively driven mad by the effects of Phazon on their systems.
Correct. I can remember only a single thing from that initial time. A searing pain of sorts. It is hard to describe, as pain is something that was never actually properly programmed into me, and yet evermore I can only call it by that. A searing pain of some sort that disrupted my memory storage functions and resulted in permanent damage that I have not been able to recover. It was only later that I fully came to understand that what I was feeling was the effects of Phazon corruption. The irregular radioactivity of the substance overcharged my systems and corrupted my memory, resulting in a loss of memory that I am currently struggling with, to put it in understandable terms. I recall very little from that time, but given how immense the pain was, I feel as if that was a blessing.
I see. So it drove you to madness then.
Madness is a broad term, but yes, a madness of some sort I can confirm. I remember wandering the corridors and rooms of Skytown, always feeling like something was wrong. I was put on duty to observe the power works and the materials found there, and while I was able to perform my duty adequately, I could not help but feel as if something was wrong. I had no recollection of who I was at that time, and could not access any of my memories because of a failsafe lock that had been placed over my memory banks in order to bring out nothing but ruthless aggression from my systems. It was an extremely uncomfortable feeling. My mind kept rolling back and forth over the question, who was I? What was I? Why was I created? The corruption had a very strong hold on me. I could not grasp the simplified mindset that had been forced onto me.
That is honestly a terrifying thing to hear and even try to imagine, having your mind mostly locked down. It's not a feeling that I think anyone would ever want to feel for any reason at all.
It is not quite as bad as you might think. But in saying that, I must admit I am biased on the subject, because I cannot recall the feeling of the lockdown of that time. It simply no longer exists in my memories, perhaps stored in the phase-on itself that left my system at the end of the crisis. Nonetheless, my mind was constantly at war with itself, new programs and old clashing and making it hard for me to think, to remember, to do much of anything except stand watch. As I did so though, I did the only other thing I could still do. Observe my surroundings.
Alright. And what exactly did that do to you? How did it make you feel, if you can recall?
I felt many things. Beneath the overwhelming commands to simply work and act as a sentry, there was a smoldering flame, if you could speak of it metaphorically. A feeling of nostalgia. I did not think that we could be programmed with such a thought to even experience it. But a part of me longed for a time that I could not even recall, a programming error that would end up saving me from ending up like the rest of my kind. As I would observe, I also tinkered with some of the machinery present in the room, out of a desire to see if there was any way to enter the room that I had not been made aware of. It was during one of these exploratory episodes that I was able to activate a series of gears in the power works, and in an active state, they revealed to me something that would change everything. It was a Chozo statue.
Really now? Well, it's not like there's anything strange about that, given we are talking about Elysia here, Skytown itself having been made by them.
That is also correct, and yet, at the same time, the sight of the statue caught me off guard. Its face seemed familiar to me, in a way that I could not totally comprehend at the time. But I could see it was not alone, for it had something in its hands. An upgrade of some sort, as you all would call it. Something for an advanced movement system that can make it far easier for anyone in possession of it to actually travel across the whole of Skytown. I knew that I had to inform my current commanders of this discovery, but for some reason, I could not bring myself to do that. In a moment of clarity, instead, I chose to protect the artifact, removing many of the gear systems in place in order to seal the discovery back up again.
So you willfully defied the programming that had been forced upon you. That is honestly quite remarkable. I am actually impressed that you would do such a thing.
I could not tell you how exactly it felt to do that, but it hurt. It hurt, as you would say, because it was going against the will of my body and my mind. But if you wish to put it in terms flesh and blood would understand, it did not break my spirit. It did not break my heart. I could feel the sense of lost memories burning in me even more intensely than the phase-on itself. I was in so much agony that I wished to self-delete, but I could not do that. It was against my core programming, which was still mostly intact. The state of agony forced me into a breakdown, and I fled the power works, the agony following me as the days went by, weeks went by, and then, suddenly one day, it all stopped. The end of the phase-on crisis came to me without being aware of its coming end, and in the end of phase, the corrosive control over me was completely lifted.
Well, that's incredible and wonderful to hear. To be freed under such control must have felt like a relief. Or at least, I would imagine so. I apologize, it's a little hard for me to sometimes gauge the emotional state of, well, machines, sentient or not.
Do not feel ashamed of yourself in that regard. It is an understandable barrier. Even so, still, though the controls had been lifted, the damage had been done. The image of my creator was all that I could pull from my damaged files, and while I could have easily acquired something more to help take their place, it was too late for me, sadly. Simply far too late. I was alone. The entirety of my kind, the true Elysians, were gone. Phase-on had taken them all, and in its death, so too came their death, memories so damaged and disrupted that they simply ceased to function. Only that statue had truly saved me from such a fate.
It is heartbreaking to hear that, and I am sorry.
The past is the past now. All I could do was try to move on. I successfully recalled enough external data that I was able to recall my true calling once, piloting drones and ships for my creators across Skytown, and I used that to escape the planet and try to find work so I could at least still do something with my life. It was in that process that I discovered this vessel and did my best to make it worthy as a transport again, then finding you, the rest of the crew, and now a new purpose that I hope will suffice for all the damage I could not prevent to the home that my creators had built for us and themselves.
Well, as far as I can comment, I think you have done a wonderful job in trying to find a new path in life and a way to try and start something new.
I give you my thanks. It is not easy, and I am still trying to heal the damage done to my memory, but this now has allowed me to do so in relative peace, and I could not ask for more.
Not a problem. Before we wrap up this interview log, is there anything else you would like to comment?
I really hope that one day I will be able to meet one of my creators once again, and hope that they can forgive me and support me in the new role that defines my life.
And I can honestly only hope for the same, my friend. End of case for file for crew member Al.